Imagine walking down the streets of Harlem in the 1930s. Jazz music playing from smoky clubs, people dressed sharp, suits and hats, laughter in the air. But behind all that glamour, there's a man pulling the strings, a man they called the Godfather of Harlem. His name? Bumpy Johnson.
Most people think they know his story. A gangster, a drug kingpin, just another name in the history of organized crime. But what if I told you that's not the full story? What if I told you Bumpy was more than a gangster? That he was a man who made the mob bow down, a man who fought for his people, and a man whose life was full of secrets the movies never told you.
Let's go back, way back. Bumpy Johnson wasn't born powerful. He was born in Charleston, South Carolina in 1905. Poor family, tough childhood, and that nickname Bumpy, he got it because of a bump on the back of his head. Simple as that. But life for Bumpy was never simple. As a teenager, his family moved to Harlem, New York, and this is where everything changed. Harlem in the 1920s was electric. The Harlem Renaissance was in full swing. Art, music, culture, it was alive. But so was crime. The streets were full of hustlers, numbers runners, gangsters. And Bumpy, he wasn't about to stay broke. He had a sharp mind and a fearless heart. He started small, running errands, gambling, the usual street stuff. But Bumpy wasn't like the others. He had something that most gangsters didn't have. He could think ahead. By the 1930s, Bumpy was working under a woman named Madam Stephanie St. Clair. Ever heard of her? She ran Harlem's numbers game before the mob even touched it. She was bold, smart, and powerful. And Bumpy became her enforcer, the guy who made sure nobody messed with her business. And trust me, that job wasn't easy, because here's the twist. The Italian mafia wanted Harlem. Guys like Lucky Luciano and Dutch Schultz were moving in. They thought they could take over. But Bumpy, he didn't back down. He stood up to the mafia and lived to tell about it. How? Respect. See, most people think gangsters was just violent thugs. But Bumpy was different. He was smart. He read books. He studied people. He knew how to negotiate. And when the mafia came for Harlem, Bumpy didn't just fight with guns. He fought with brains. He made a deal with Lucky Luciano himself. Think about that. A black man in the 1930s sitting across from one of the most powerful mob bosses in history and making a deal. That's power. But don't get it twisted. Bumpy wasn't a saint. He ran rackets. He controlled the streets. Later in life, he got into the heroin trade, and yeah, that destroyed lives. But here's the part people don't talk about. Bumpy also gave back. He paid rent for families who couldn't afford it. He bought food for people who were hungry. Some even say he kept drugs out of Harlem for as long as he could. He saw himself as a protector of his community, even if the law saw him as a criminal.
And here's something else you probably didn't know. Bumpy loved poetry. He wrote poems from prison. He even quoted Shakespeare. Imagine that. The most feared man in Harlem, sitting in his cell, writing about life and love. That was more to him than the streets.
But like every story like this,
chicken looks absolutely delicious, doesn't it?
Bumpy spent years in prison. When he got out in the 1960s, Harlem had changed. New gangs, new drugs, new rules. He was older now, but still respected. People still called him the Godfather of Harlem. And then, one night in 1968, after having dinner at a restaurant, Bumpy Johnson's heart gave out. He died right there, sitting at a table, eating fried chicken and talking to friends. Just like that, the legend was gone. But his name, it never disappeared. It lived on in movies and TV shows and whispers on the streets. Because Bumpy wasn't just a gangster. He was a symbol of power, survival, and pride in the world it wanted him to feel. The story of Bumpy Johnson isn't just about crime. It's about a man who played the game his way and won, even when the odds was against him. So what you think? Was Bumpy Johnson a hero, a villain, or something in between? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love stories like this, hit that like button and subscribe,
because there are so many more untold stories waiting to be told.